Привет. I've been looking at Slavic folk tales for a number of reasons. One of them is I'm Ukrainian, and so, hey, embracing the heritage. There's also the thing that I'm in a medieval reenactment organization, the Society for Creative Anachronism, and I happen to have a Kyivan persona. And then there's the idea of just wading through the folklore because I find it fascinating. But something that has been making me crazy is whenever I would read a reference to coins, to money, it was always in rubles. And that made me a little nuts because it seems that the word ruble is a bit anachronistic, which is kind of funny because I'm an anachronist. And that just didn't seem right. And a bit of digging said, yeah, okay, if you're like 14th century or a bit past that, the ruble is okay to use, except that it doesn't actually become a coin until Peter the Great does his big transformation of Russia in 1704. All right. Oh, by the way, it's the first currency to be decimalized. 1 ruble is 100 kopecks. Okay, and if you start talking about gold and silver and copper pieces, that makes it sound like you're playing D&D, not doing living history. So what were the people of Kyiv using for money? Okay, there's two different periods. 9th through 12th century, a bunch of foreign coins coming in. And then there's the coinless period of basically 13th century on to the end of the Rus period. The fur of small animals has long been used as one of the main types of monetary substitutes. It was highly valued in other countries. That allowed for a profitable trade. Money circulation started when active trade in Northern and Eastern Europe began with the countries of the Caliphate. Eastern Europe, lacking large ore reserves of monetary metal, actively imported silver. In the first third of the 9th century, Caliphate coins called dirhams reached Rus by way of the Caucasus and Central Asian trade routes and became widely used in ancient Rus as a means of payment, worn as jewelry or melted down. The main means of circulation in Rus, which means places like Kyiv and Chernihiv and Smolensk, were cuttings from dirhams. When the 2.73 ounce dirham received the name kuna, that's basically the Russian word for martin, the equivalent of a part of a kuna was called a rezana. Fragments of dirhams, like half, quarter, etc., are often found in ancient Rus treasures. The fragmentation of dirhams indicates that the whole coin was just too big to use for small trade transactions. Okay, so we have this coin that's too big. It's 2.73 ounces of silver. Originally, that's the dirham from the Caliphate. The people of Kyiv were calling it the kuna, named for the marten, a little furry animal, which we're going to come back to. And we got to divide the coin up. Okay, we're going to cut it. And that division, that cut, that's going to be called a rezana. And it actually comes from the word to cut. So, 2 rezanas make 1 kuna. Okay. Well, you're going to divide this further. And it would be easy to cut the rezana in half. The people in Kyiv aren't going to do that. They're going to cut it into 3 parts. And one of those tiny fractions, that's called a veksha, squirrel. All right. And keep in mind, we're going to come back to the fur thing later. So you need 3 vekshas to make 1 rezana, 6 vekshas, 6, all right, to make 2 rezanas or 1 kuna, all right, which is a marten. Okay, and all right, so the use of the silver coins, that's, going on for a while. But then during the reigns of Volodymyr and Sviatopolk. Okay, we're talking Volodymyr the Great, or Saint Volodymyr. Kyiv starts to mint its own coins. And the way they're doing it really is they're getting silver and they're getting gold and copper from their trade, and then they're melting it down and they're stamping it out or minting it. And the reason they're doing that, it's not about prestige and look how cool I am, my face is on this coin. And these weren't being done as, gifts. They were actually used for circulation. There just weren't a lot of them, right? So here's what they're doing. The appearance of the Russian coinage, that's also like a result of increased trade with Constantinople. And by the way, Volodymyr wants his political connections with Constantinople, which is kind of why he converts. And the model for one of the coins was the Byzantine solidus, which was like 4.2 grams of gold. And that was the solidus of Basil II and Constantine VIII. All right, so these are Byzantine emperors. So now Volodymyr is going to come along and he's going to get a hold of gold and he's going to stamp out his own coins. So the first ancient Rus gold coin minted in Kyiv shortly after the Christianization of Volodymyr was a zlotnik, sometimes called a zolotnik, which comes from the word for gold. Okay, that wasn't its real name, but was used in numismatics traditionally and known from the text of the Rus-Byzantine treaty done in something like 911. Okay, so one zlotnik was the equivalent to 1/35 of a Kyivan gold hryvnia, which we're going to talk about. The mass of the zlotnik, which worked out to be the same as the Byzantine coin, 4.2 grams, was later used as the basis for the Russian weight unit, the zolotnik. Even the images are the same. The srebrenik, that's the first silver coin that's minted in Kyivan Rus. And it's being minted from silver imported Byzantine, Arab, and Western European coins. And it's not just about, oh, look how cool, my face is on the coin. It was about building the prestige of the Rus state. And these coins were actually intended for circulation. There weren't a lot minted, but the ones found show evidence that they had been used, so they weren't simply ceremonial. Now, the silver ones, they're going to continue being made. The zlotniks, the gold ones, after Volodymyr passes, they don't make them anymore. Okay. In the northern regions, there's Western European coins, the denarius, that are coming from the German lands and the English lands and the Scandinavian coinage, and those start to replace the dirhams, and that's in the north. And eventually what's going to happen is the coinage starts to decrease because the flow of silver decreases, and they're going to end up getting replaced by silver bars, hryvnia, and those are going to hold out until probably like the 14th century. Okay, so we're going into the coinless period now, and that's like 12th century to 14th century, and that's where you're going to see silver and gold coinage pretty much disappear. It's not being used much. Where'd all the coins go? People are hoarding them because the silver coins that used to flow from the caliphate up to the north, that's now been reduced to a trickle because the caliphate's a lot weaker. So that means come up with a replacement for coins. Okay, commodity money. Commodity money is, let's see, for large calculations, they were probably using cattle and silver ingots, maybe some gold, but that's probably not going to be all that much. Silver ingots called hryvnias. And for smaller calculations, furs of different animals, um, bracelets, glass beads, that sort of thing, and different products of Rus crafts. So that brings us to the hryvnia. It comes from a word basically for neck, or and it means a necklace or a torque. So this is a torque. The reason why it's taken the meaning of a unit of weight, that's unclear. The hryvnias found in various archaeological sites are not necklaces, they're bullions of precious metals, usually silver. The weight and the shape are going to vary from region to region. The hryvnia in Kyiv, that's going to be a rhomboid shaped ingot, either of gold or silver, weighing about a third of a pound. In Chernihiv, it was a disc. In Novgorod, the hryvnia would be a thin, long-edged or three-edged ingot that weighed about 0.45 pounds, and it became the basis for monetary systems in northeastern Rus principalities and in Muscovy. The golden hryvnia was 12.5 times more expensive than the silver one, and it was also the first weight unit referred to in the ancient Rus chronicles. Whenever I would talk about money in different time periods, my students would always ask me, well, what could you buy with this much? Okay, so what's a hryvnia gonna get you? If it's a silver one that weighs a pound, which was the original weight before it got devalued, you could buy a struch. A struch was a flat-bottomed boat that could carry about 30 tons of goods. Whenever I would talk about money in different time periods, my students would always ask me, well, what could you buy with this much? Okay, so what's a hryvnia gonna get you? If it's a silver one that weighs a pound, which was the original weight before it got devalued, you could buy a struch. A struch was a flat-bottomed boat that could carry about 30 tons of goods. Okay, we've talked about breaking down a kuna into various coins, but let's deal with this is essentially a coinless period of time. So how do you break down a hryvnia? Well, a hryvnia is going to become 100 kunas or marten furs, and that's going to become 200 rezanas or vers. Basically, that sounds, pretty heraldic, and it is. You're going to see the word or run into the word variegated. Okay. A ver was a processed fur that was made. It was basically a bluish gray squirrel fur. All right. So we have the 200 rezanas, and that becomes 400 to 600 vekshas or squirrel furs. When Yaroslav the Wise needed money, the people in Novgorod gave him, the commoners gave him 4 kunas each, the elders 10 hryvnias, the boyars 18 hryvnias. So think about all the furs piling up. So how do coins come back into use in Russia? Thank the Mongols or the Tatars. With the establishment of the Tatar-Mongol yoke, the economy gets jump-started, strangely enough. And it's basically, the economy is growing with the spread of Juche coins, which basically were, you could thank the Golden Horde for that. Also, coins were getting minted in northeastern Rus lands, starting in Muscovy. Um, Coins like the ruble and the kopek and the denga are showing up, and that's going to make commodity money obsolete. So, okay, whirlwind tour of Kyivan Rus economics. I hope you stick with me for the next video.